It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number, should you wish to be on the program, 877-973-7425. You can text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Follow me around the internet, social media, got the live stream. We've updated the website. I finally was able to buy ericerickson.com. It's taken me years and years, but I am now the proud owner of ericerickson.com. I own .org, I own .net, but I can never buy .com because an old man in Florida who made horror masks for Hollywood. I kid you not. He would make the horror masks for shows back in, I guess, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And he owned that website, and you could order like a death mask and stuff from him. And I don't know what happened. I assume he finally passed away or something. But the site finally came up, and I was like, I'm buying it. Had to pay a lot of money, but I own ericerickson.com now, so you can go to ericerickson.com. We've even updated the website. I'm sure you care. I do. Now, okay. Finally, we've gotten through the economy. The economy is the big stuff, but we got to talk about this. Cornel West is running for president of the United States. He's a left-winger, very nice guy, apparently. I don't know him. Robbie George, who's a great conservative and is on faculty, I guess, where? Yale or Princeton? I can't remember. But anyway, he works with Cornel West and thinks the guy's a wonderful human being, but he's like a left-wing Marxist. The Democrats have taken to calling him a threat to democracy because he could pull votes away from Joe Biden. At this point, Democrats define threat to democracy as anything that could hurt their party. Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, who, by the way, is now managing Cornel West's campaign. Remember, she was also slammed and smeared as a Russian agent, just like Donald Trump. It turned out not to be true for her either. No one's ever apologized to her. The Democrats hate her. They blame her for helping get Donald Trump elected. Now they're after Cornel West. They don't like Robert Kennedy Jr. either. He's a threat to democracy. Anything that might be a threat to the Democrats' hold on power is a threat to democracy these days. That's how they define it. They really don't want a third party. They really don't want Cornel West, who's a black man, progressive, younger people like him on the Democratic Party side. Perhaps black voters will like him. They don't want it. He's a threat to democracy. I have to wonder, when do Democrats decide Joe Biden is a threat to democracy? When do Democrats decide Joe Biden is a threat to democracy? Democrats have defined threat to democracy as anything that might hinder the advance of the Democratic Party. And Joe Biden, polling shows, including the Democrats' own internal polling, is beginning to hinder the Democratic Party. One of those issues that gives a certain 60 and 70-something-year-old TV commentator priapism is in the early 1970s, the wise old men of the Senate going to Richard Nixon, telling him that he needed to resign for the good of the country, that he would be impeached, he needed to go, and so Nixon resigned. And every once in a while you have the priapatic or whatever you call it, they can't sit well in their chair. It's like they've taken Viagra and they're on television And they just, oh, we need the wise men of the Senate to go talk to Trump. We need the wise men of the Senate to go talk to Clinton. We need the wise men of the Senate to do something. They now want the wise men of the Senate to go to Joe Biden and say, psst, buddy, you're too old. Democrats are beginning to be more vocal in the fact Joe Biden said he was going to be a one-term president. He needs to be a one-term president. This is the top story this morning, the top story, above the fold. You know, when I say above the fold, when you get a newspaper, it's folded in half, and the top story, the big story, is at the top of the front page. So when the fold over and the newspaper lays flat, it's what you see. The top story for the nation in the Washington Post is this headline today: anxiety ripples through the Democratic Party over Biden. And the subtitle: persistent concerns over Biden's age come amid a series of polls showing he's neck and neck with Trump. It's by 3 reporters. This series of political vulnerabilities, along with House Republicans announcing an impeachment inquiry and the Justice Department indicting Biden's son on gun charges, is now sending waves of anxiety through parts of the Democratic Party as some fret about whether the man who helped oust Donald Trump from the White House may not have the vitality at 80 to successfully prevent a return. And you got this most amazing quote is from Sharon Sweda, the leader of the Democratic Party in Lorain County in Ohio. This is an extraordinary quote for a Democratic leader to put on the record. Now, you need to know Lorain County is just outside Cleveland, and it is a prominent Democratic area of the state, and she's willing to be public with this quote. Y'all may need to sit down for this one. I cannot believe a Democrat of prominence, and if you're the Democratic Party chair of Lorain County in Ohio, you're a Democrat of prominence because of the swingy nature of that area of the state. You're a Democrat of prominence, and this is Sharon Sweda. This is her quote to the Washington Post, and I quote, "He's in a period of life where passing and death is imminent. We are all on a ticking clock. But when you're at his age or at Trump's age, the clock is ticking a little faster, and that's a concern for voters." Ma'am, Sharon, there's a thing called the Witness Protection Program. You might want to consider getting into it as quickly as you possibly can before someone in the Democratic Party straps some cement shoes on you and throws you into one of the Great Lakes. I can't believe a Democrat would go on record saying that, but she did. He's in a period of his life where passing and death is imminent. We're all on a ticking clock, but when you're at his age or Trump's age, that clock is ticking a little faster, and that's a concern for voters. Wow, she went there. And by the way, she's only saying what other Democrats are saying behind the scenes. Biden's allies are frustrated by the hand-wringing from an anxious faction of the party, and even as campaign officials point to the president's record of defying skeptics, they are strategizing internally about how best to combat the unmistakable nervousness. Let me play you one more exchange. This is Jake Tapper talking with David Axelrod, who is Barack Obama's top advisor, about the Gavin Newsom interview that Gavin Newsom did with Dana Bash. Gavin Newsom is becoming a thorn in the side of the Biden administration because he's clearly covets running for president and is hoping Joe Biden dies so he can get in the race.
Let me ask you the sodium panel thought question. I mean, he's out there, he's debating Sean Hannity, he's talking to Dana for an hour-long special, obviously very loyal to Joe Biden, obviously doesn't want to distract, but come on, he's primed and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the White House is very gratified for some of the things that he's saying. I don't know that they'd be as enthusiastic about his ubiquitous presence on the air. It's sort of like, just at the time when Democrats are concerned about their aging, spouse, here comes the young neighbor, young strapping potential
Did you
partner.
see the split screen?
Yeah.
That we were. I don't know I don't know if we were doing that on purpose, but like it just looked like.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that he knows he's a sophisticated guy. He knows that he's playing against the story right now. And, I don't think he's setting himself up to run in 2024. I actually agree with him, Jake, that I think Biden's running.
Right.
I think Biden's going to be the nominee.
Right.
But he's certainly getting a head start on 2028. I don't think there's any question about that.
This from the Washington Post. Interviews with more than 30 lawmakers, strategists, activists, and other Democrats show uncertainty persists. Many Democrats express steadfast support for the president's running for a second term, and no major figure has risen to challenge him in a primary. Several party leaders predicted that even voters who voice ambivalence about Biden will ultimately be animated to vote against the Republican choice, particularly if it's Donald Trump. But few offered confident assessments that Biden's stubbornly low approval ratings would rebound before next year. And many conceded that one of the president's most significant challenges is one he has no control over: his age. I am open and honest and candid about my views on Trump being the Republican nominee. No Democrat wants to be about Joe Biden. The reality is, as much as I prefer a different Republican to be the nominee, I think it makes it easier for us to take back the Senate, gain the House, gain the presidency. The reality is, Joe Biden is tied with Donald Trump. Joe Biden is having to spend millions of dollars now in September of 2023, more than a year before a national presidential election, to boost his popularity with Democrats. He's running his ads on 60 Minutes. Republicans and swing voters aren't watching 60 Minutes on Sunday. They've just finished one football game. They're getting ready for the next one. He's trying to bolster himself with Democrats by running ads on 60 Minutes. That's not a good sign. Donald Trump could beat him. Without a penny being spent, Donald Trump is tied with Joe Biden in the polls. The Democrats have a problem. They want the wise men of the Senate to go to Joe Biden and say, Mr. President, it's time to step aside. Let us have a primary. Let us pick a new winner. But they can't do that. One, because Kamala Harris would demand their loyalty and she wouldn't get it. And two, how do a bunch of 80-year-old senators go to an 80-year-old president and say, dude, you're too old for the job, when he looks back at them and says, well, why aren't you too old for your job? They can't do it. They're not in a position to do it. And meanwhile, without Trump spending a penny, he's tied with Joe Biden. And I don't know if you heard me, but diesel prices are going up. Gas prices are going up. Hedge funds are starting to make riskier and riskier bets into the economy that are more and more likely to not pay off, causing economic problems, causing a recession, driving our economy into the ground. All as Joe Biden is gearing up for re-election. The Democrats have so many problems. And one, the leadership is in denial about the problems. Two, the base of the party recognizes the problems. But three, the only people who could persuasively make the case to Biden to get out are the old men of the Senate, who themselves are so old and can't give up their own power. There's no way they can make the case to Biden that he's got to give up his. Of course, the media would rather focus on Republican problems. But I'm not the media. I can focus on the Democrats' problems. And we should save all this as a great I told you so for later, because, my goodness, you can see what's coming. To quote Sharon from Ohio, he's in a period of life where passing and death is imminent. God have mercy on all of us. I run a small business. You may not realize this radio show is small business. I've got employees. I got management headaches, hirings of employees. Thankfully, no firings. But you got to deal with the management burden sometimes. If you're a small business owner, you probably deal with those headaches as well. And sometimes I've realized it's better to outsource to an HR department so you don't have to be the bad guy. Your employees can like you, and you want to deal with an HR department that your employees can like for the most part when they need HR assistance. And you got to think about these things as a small business owner. Let's say somebody isn't showing up when they're supposed to. You don't want to have to be the confrontational bad guy. That's where Bambi comes in. Or an employee reports a serious issue like sexual harassment, and you're not even sure if you got a documented policy. Bambi can take care of those things. With Bambi, you get access to a dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 a month. They're available by phone, by email, real-time chat, so you can do onboardings and terminations that run smoothly. Your team members help coaching for peak performance. Your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations, and they always change. Y'all, Bambi's dedicated HR managers are U.S.-based individuals who are dedicated to your business. So they seem like they're on your team, not just somebody from a different company, but actually on your team with the personal touches you want. So if you need HR assistance for your growing small business, reach out to Bambi, Bambi.com. Go right now, type in Eric Erickson under podcast when you sign up. It'll help the show. It's spelled Bambi, BAMBEE.com, Bambi.com. Type in Eric Erickson under podcast. Start moving your business forward with great, dedicated, team-oriented HR, Bambi.com. Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Let's go to Philip. Welcome to the show. Philip, how are you?
Doing great, Eric. How are you, sir?
Great.
Good. I'll make this quick. I want to throw a hypothetical situation and question at you. Joe Biden gets reelected. The Senate stays with the Democrats. They regain the House. The economy just hits the crapper. I mean, goes to crap. What civil liberties would you think would be put on hold or really curtailed to get the economy back in order per the Democrat way?
I think there would be, thank you for that, Phil, there would be massive takeovers of the economy by the government. I think if Joe Biden is able to win, they hold the Senate and gain the House, you're going to see more and more socialism. The free market will be kicked in the teeth by the Democrats more than it already has been. Why? Because the Democrats, they haven't lost their belief so much in God as they have placed their belief in technocrats to manage the government. They don't believe you're able to. They don't trust the free market. And they're not going to implement full socialism because they found something better. They found where Europe transitioned out of socialism to this, and that is the technocrat. You allow the technocrats to pull the levers on the economy. You allow the technocrat to manage the economy. It's not real socialism. It's socialism via the technocracy and the elite. They push the buttons, they pull the levers, they flip the switches, and they think they will get certain economic outputs based on certain economic inputs. And so all of government will be brought to bear to control how you operate in the economy and how businesses operate in the economy. It's why Republicans need to win. It's why we need the strongest candidates possible. Because we've got to, and also we need the strongest candidates possible who, because the economy will start going downhill, we need the best candidates possible to bounce back out of it as quickly as possible by deploying the free market, minimizing regulations, decreasing regulations, getting rid of regulations and red tape, and cutting taxes and allowing the American people the control over the economy that they want, and as opposed to the elite in Washington doing it. That would be bad. That would be bad. Now, I got to tell you about Patriot Mobile, a company operating in the free market that wants your business. As they grow their profits, they grow their giving to the conservative causes you care about. It's such a great business model. The left has been doing this for a while. They've got a left-wing cell phone provider that does this and has funded millions and millions to the left. And so conservatives thought, why don't we do this? We'll set up a company called Patriot Mobile. That's where this idea came from. All you have to do is move your cell phone service to them. Go to patriotmobile.com/Eric. You move your cell phone service to them. You get guaranteed great service in return. They're using the same cell towers you're probably already using. You can even take your existing phone number to them. You don't have to get a brand new phone number, but if you want one, they'll give you one. You can also call them 972-PATRIOT and tell them I sent you. You get free activation. You get great discounts. You're a veteran, a first responder, an NRA member, a teacher, you name it. They're willing to help you save some money, give you guaranteed great service, and then as their profits grow, they're giving to the conservative causes you care about grow. So you go to patriotmobile.com/Eric. You can even put in your address and see how good the service is down to your house. 5G data voice, they offer it all. patriotmobile.com/Eric or 972-PATRIOT. Help them grow. You grow the conservative movement. Hi there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, real quick, this is an important moment, important anniversary, and everybody thought I was crazy. 11 years ago today, I had to do I was still with CNN. I was just about to go to Fox. But was still at CNN, and I had to do a morning hit with what's her name? Who's that awful woman? Soledad O'Brien. Yes, yeah, what a terrible person. So she was on CNN at the time. My career has risen as hers has fallen, but we were at CNN together then, and we had a dog at the time. So Sean Hannity had convinced me, guilted me really, bullied me more accurately, that we needed a rescue dog. The kids wanted a dog. He's like, oh, you got to get a rescue. You got to get a rescue. There's this thing of these people, you got to get a rescue dog. All these dogs, they're at shelters and you got to save them. Well, we tried one dog, and that dog was insane. It herded the kids into the corner and bit my wife when my wife tried to get the kids out of the corner. We're like, nope, you got to go back. So we got another dog, and the dog was a sweet dog. Iridessa was the dog's name, part lab and part whippet. The dog either ran or slept. There was no in between. And when it ran, it left a cloud of fur everywhere it went. Well, the dog one morning decided, it had to go outside. I had to get up. I had to be on TV early. The dog woke up with me and went outside, and I went to get ready, had to put on TV makeup, had to get my suit on, had to do the connection because I had a TV studio in the house, and the dog was going nuts outside, absolutely insane. So I go outside to get the dog, and we live when there's a hill behind our house, and I walked up the hill to get the dog, and there were bushes and tall grass further up the hill, and there it was. At first, I thought it was just a cat. And then it stood up. This sucker was a fully grown black panther. Not kidding. Huge black panther. When that thing stood up and stuck its tail up in the air, and the tail had a mind of its own. It was like a radar. It was so freaky. The dog and I, we raced each other back to the houses as quick as we possibly could. I ran upstairs to my wife and said, there is a panther in the back. There is a black panther in the backyard. And she says, I know. Like, what? How did you not tell me? She says, well, I took an Ambien last night and saw it walking down the street and thought it must be a lab. I was seeing things. Nope. Everybody in the neighborhood thought I was insane. Everybody thought I was crazy. And then it started showing up on people's trail cams. And so I called the Department of Natural Resources, and they said, oh, we don't have black panthers in Georgia. I'm like, I saw a black panther. So then they grilled me about it. I was like, it was not a little bitty cat. I was close enough to it. The thing was ginormous. It was bigger than my dog and had this massive tail. And when I described the tail and how the tail operated, completely separate from the movements of the cat, and it was like a multi-jointed tail. And they're like, oh, well, occasionally, these are in private captivity and they're unreported and they escape, and that might be what you're seeing. Now, I talked to a friend of mine who works at the Department of Natural Resources, and he said that's the story they give people, that we have them in the Southeast. They are very rare. But we have them. We have panthers from Florida, the yellow ones, that come up from Florida as well, and they get into the mountains. We have the black ones, but they're so rare, and they don't want people looking for them because they're going to find you before you find it, and they're going to eat you. So they tell people we don't have them in the state, that we don't have a big enough population to worry about. But he said, I guarantee you that within about 3 years it's going to come back, because based on what we know, they do this massive loop, and every 3 years they show up in about the same area. And it was not 3 years later. We were having security issues at our home. We had a police officer parked outside about 1 o'clock in the morning, and this woman started screaming like she was being murdered. And he said, there's your panther. I said, are you kidding me? He said, nope, that's what the panthers sound like. Have y'all ever heard a panther? A panther sounds like a woman screaming. Like, not a man. It's a high-pitched, shrill scream like somebody. I mean, it's chilling when you hear it. We were up in North Georgia a while back in Blue Ridge, Georgia, in the mountains, in a cabin. We started hearing that screaming. I was like, there is a mountain lion somewhere around this house. And we all went inside and made sure the dog stayed inside. It was a while, but it was 11 years ago today that everybody thought I was insane because I had seen a black panther, and then it started showing up on people's trail cams, and they all knew I had seen the panther. Now, not that any of you care, but I care greatly because people really did think I was nuts, and I wasn't. And now there's a golf course south of me where there was a golfer who actually saw one in a tree. And it was a black. It wasn't one of the yellow ones or brown ones from South Florida. It was a black panther. It was sitting in a tree at a golf course about 30 minutes south of me. Freaked the man out, as it should. They're dangerous. Those things are dangerous. But in any event, now I want to talk about football, not in the way you may expect, because I like to watch football. I am not an expert in football. I don't do fantasy football. Here's my claim to fame. The only time I ever did a fantasy football league, the only time I participated in fantasy football, I won. Because my buddy Russ Vogt, who is now the head of the Center for American Renewal, and he was the OMB director for Donald Trump. Russ is a dear friend of mine, and Russ convinced me that I should do the fantasy football league and not to worry, that he would pick my players for me. Well, he picked the players for me, and I won. And he didn't intend that, but I won. I like to watch a game. I can't tell you what's going on. I try to explain the game to my kid. I'm like, we need to get your mom out here. She knows more than me when it comes to football. I grew up in the desert. We did camel racing, and we had soccer. We didn't have football. I mean, we had football, but it was soccer. Nonetheless, I watched that game last night between the Steelers and the Browns, and it was horrible. You could hear what happened to Nick Chubb. I mean, they're talking about it, and in the background you're, oh. I mean, like, turn the microphone off. I don't need to hear this guy. He's like shattered his knee. It was horrible. And so they showed the replay in the stadium. And you're listening to the crowd in the background. You're listening to the commentators. You don't see the big screen where they're replaying this. And the entire crowd goes, it was awful. It was gut-wrenching. It makes you want to hurl just thinking about it. And you could hear the guy in the background just, oh, it was horrible. I'm glad ABC didn't do that replay. While it was going on, the Saints were playing as well. And I'm from Louisiana. I like the Saints. But I also like the Steelers, and that was the Monday Night Football game for me. I didn't watch ESPN, although I've started watching the Manning cast on ESPN too, where Peyton and Eli talk to each other through the game, which is it's a fun show to watch. However, there's actually a larger point than me talking about football, of which I enjoy watching the games, but I'm largely ignorant of it. And it's the experience. ABC, because of the strike in Hollywood. Did y'all realize there's a strike going on? This is notable to me. So the UAW has been striking for like 5 days, and there's absolute economic panic inside Washington, D.C. Hollywood actually produces more in the American economy than the UAW does, and the big three automakers do. The big three automakers' percentage of economic output to the American economy is less than Hollywood's, and there's nobody in Washington who cares that the writers and the actors are striking in Hollywood, which should tell you everything about all of this. The problem is, in a state like mine in Georgia that has a massive film industry, it's starting to have economic ramifications because nobody's making TV shows, nobody's making Netflix series, nobody's making movies right now because everybody's on strike. ABC is going to be showing more Monday Night Football games than originally planned because of the strike. They don't have new content. Streaming outlets are starting to cancel shows. And the TV networks are starting to say, if we can't get this resolved in the next 2 weeks, we got to cancel the TV season, which is going to be devastating because we're in this transition from cable to streaming services. But we're starting to see where this is shaping up. For example, last night I watched the ABC game on YouTube TV. I've got DirecTV. I can't tell you the last time I actually turned on DirecTV at my house. The reason I have DirecTV is that if I'm here at my office and I want to watch something, I have an Apple TV and I've got the apps for all the TV networks. And if I put in my DirecTV password, I can stream it. So if I'm at the office and there's breaking news, I can pull up CNN on my laptop. I use my DirecTV login and I can see it. The problem for the big cable operators like Charter, of course, is in a fight with Disney, is there's clearly a transition happening, and the cable networks are starting to realize, we can just provide the internet and let another company come forward and provide the cable TV package. Disney's looking at the thing and saying, I don't have to put my shows on cable. I can make people get a Disney Plus subscription. The problem is once you get the Disney Plus subscription, you get ESPN, you get Hulu, all part of Disney, and then you add in Netflix, and then you add in Apple TV Plus, and then you add in Paramount and Peacock and Amazon Prime, and you name the streaming services. At some point, you're paying as much or more than you were for your cable package. So now you have groups like Fubo and Sling with Dish Network and YouTube TV. They're producing a cable TV package where you get the channels. So I had Fubo, which has a lot of international sports, but it didn't have all the news programs that I liked. So now I've got YouTube TV, which has the NFL Sunday football package, so I can watch every Sunday football game on the NFL, even in blackout markets for cable. But then that presents another problem that people are coming to terms with. And the Wall Street Journal has a big story out yesterday I didn't get to about how Americans are deeply frustrated at this moment because the streaming services for sports suck. You got to have multiple packages. You don't know where to watch the game. Half the time you can't watch the game. The games are blacked out. But if you buy the streaming cable service like YouTube TV, you can see the game. If you get just a standard like package for ESPN or Bally Sports, you might not be able to see the game. Nobody knows where to go to see their favorite team. This is not it, y'all. This is not it. We are making life too complicated, particularly when a very large number of Americans still have cable TV. Tens of millions of Americans are not ready for streaming yet. The people who have streaming don't like what's being offered. The people who don't have it don't want to transition. None of them can watch their favorite games anymore, their favorite teams anymore. The cable providers and the sports companies and the streaming services have screwed up sports. The thing that built cable TV can't build a streaming service if nobody knows where to go to get their favorite game. And all the streaming services, Disney in particular, thought if we offer compelling sports on ESPN, we'll be able to reign supreme, except nobody can figure out where to get the game. And then you buy the package and you can't see the game because it's blocked. It's garbage. More people watched Nick Chubb destroy his knee last night on cable TV than on streaming services. And for sports and news, that's the way it's going to be for still a little bit longer. And Disney just seems to be screwing everything up the way it wants to transition ESPN, and nobody is happy. I am not a massive sports fan, but I enjoy watching football games with my friends on the front porch on Sunday. And that's on NBC, Sunday Night Football. And we're not going to see these streaming services be able to compete. We are like, everything sucks for consumers right now when it comes to watching live sports on TV. Nothing is good. And people are starting to get very aggravated about it. And it just seems like there's another company could come along and offer something competing to YouTube TV and Fubo and do better. Maybe Apple or somebody. There's got to be a future out there that disconnects the cable provider from being the internet provider, from being the provider of sports. But we ain't there. It's very difficult right now to try to enjoy TV, and that should tell everybody something. But what's even more notable is that even as we're enjoying TV and we're enjoying streaming packages and we're enjoying sports as best we can, nobody cares that Hollywood is striking. And that should tell everybody in Hollywood something about how the rest of us view them. Now, we've got all these strikes out there now, the UAW and more private sector companies striking, and part of it is an emboldenment by the Biden administration, and part of it is a frustration with the Biden economy, and that's where Americans for Prosperity comes in. They are teaching Americans how they can fight back against Bidenomics to deregulate, to stimulate local economies and state economies. I'm actually doing an event for Americans for Prosperity tomorrow night with Georgia's Lieutenant Governor on deregulation in the state and how to expand market opportunities for people using the free market. It's AFP's wheelhouse, the free market and free people. They would love for you to be on their team. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/Eric, americansforprosperity.org/ERICK. You go check out Americans for Prosperity. You sign up. You become one of their activists. You learn how to make easily persuadable cases to your local government, to your neighbor, on why limited government, free markets, free people are good, why Bidenomics is bad, and how they can fight back. It's americansforprosperity.org/ERICK. Go sign up with them today. Be a warrior for the fight for this country, for the future of free markets and free people. americansforprosperity.org/Eric. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. All right. Can we just talk about the Senate dress code business for a moment? The United States Senate, led by Chuck Schumer, has decided to upend 200 years of dress code for one slob who's incapable of dressing himself. This, there's a metaphor here. Democrats are more and more willing to upend the norms of civilization to cater to the smallest minority groups. Take transgenderism. You could be out of a job in America for refusing to acknowledge the proper pronouns of someone, and it's like 0.5% at most of the American population that you got to humor. And the Democrats demand that you humor that one crazy person who doesn't know whether they're boy or girl, despite being able to pull down their pants and tell. The same thing with John Fetterman in the United States Senate. All the years of tradition and decorum in the Senate must be upended because one man who can't put words together without tripping in the United States Senate seems incapable of dressing himself, and therefore no one in the Senate has to dress themselves anymore. They can all show up naked, and Chuck Schumer would be fine with it because of one moron from Pennsylvania who is incapable of putting on anything other than a hoodie and shorts. Talk about defining deviancy down. It's what Chuck Schumer's doing, all for one guy from Pennsylvania who's at war with the English language and pants.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.